Hey everyone, Dane here. Today we're on part 2 of our PC-Engine Duo-R refurb. We are going to be installing a RGB mod into Jay's PC-Engine Duo-R today. It has already been recapped and it is ready to go, so we're going to jump right in. Let's get to it. Okay, so here we have our PC-Engine RGB mod kit from Voltar. It comes with the kit here, the actual RGB board. We have our actual new 8-pin DIN, as well as these little caps that are swimming around in there. These little SMD caps are our jail bar fix, and I actually think that's where we're going to start today. So I'm going to get this kit opened up, and we will locate where on the board it is that we need to install those new caps. The new DIN looks nice. And that would be the new RGB board. Nice and clean. Looks like it's got a jumper for a low pass filter right there too. That's pretty cool. And here are our SMD caps. You can see they are very small, so we're going to need to be careful when we put these in. But yeah, let's go ahead and do that jail bar fix first. So we're going to be looking for a region on the back side of this board that is kind of in here. I use the DIN to get my bearings. And so the information on this is available on the Console 5 wiki. You know, the trusty old Console 5 wiki I use for all this stuff. They've got a great diagram of the chips that we'll need to be using to hook up our RGB, as well as which caps we need to replace for our jail bar fix. And in fact, I'm going to pull those up real quick for my own reference here. All right, so we are going to be looking for caps C09 and C903. So 909 and 903. All right, so here's cap 909, and I'll go ahead and zoom in here so we can a little bit easier time seeing what I'm doing. So yeah, so this is C909. That is one of our jail bar caps, and the other one is C903 right here, according to the Console 5 wiki. So I'm going to fire up my soldering iron and my fume extractor. All right, and we will get removing those caps. So I always like to use my old solder flood method for removing these caps. And we'll go ahead and do C909 first. All right, there's one. And the other is 903 right here. There we go. And right now I'm just kind of flattening the solder out on those pads so they'll be easy to lay our jail bar caps on top of. All right, and I'm just getting those out of their housing now. And I usually use my tweezers to do that. I find that that's very helpful when you're dealing with these really small components. All right, there's our first one. So I'm going to set that there just like that. And so now I'm going to go ahead and... Oh, looks like I got a call coming in. Be right back. Okay, we're back. Sorry about that. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get our flux on the board. Just like that. I'm going to pre-tin my iron. Now the other thing I'm going to do is actually go ahead and try to get back a hold of that cap. That way when I weld it down, I can hold it in place. All right, that joint's a little ugly, but that's okay. That's just enough to tack it down. Go ahead and hit the other side now. And we'll hit the whole thing with some flux and finish the job. One more pass on that side. Yeah, I'm not quite sure why that keeps pulling on me. I'm gonna clean my tip real good. Third time's a charm. There we go. All right, there's one jail bar fix. Oh no, I seem to have misplaced my teeny tiny components. Must have dropped it somewhere. All right, I gotta go hunt that down. Be right back. Okay, we are back. Found my teeny tiny part that I dropped on the floor. Be careful. Careful with these. They are really, really small. Just kind of trying to get that set in place. A little bit of flux. Pre-tin the iron. That didn't go over real well, so let's go ahead and come at this from a different angle here. I think we'll go ahead and tack in the other side first. The flux is making it stick to my tweezers, making it kind of hard to get a hold of. All right, there we go. All right, there's one side. Let's go ahead and hit it with the flux again. Okay, so you know what? We are on there, but I'm not real happy with that, so I'm going to knock that off. And we're going to try this again. I just had it up way too high. That is much better. All right, so there's C903. That is our jail bar fix. Let's go ahead and clean up our work. Just a little bit of alcohol. All right. That is our jail bar fix. There's 903, and there's 909. Okay, so we are now ready to jump into our RGB mod. Okay, so the next area we are concerned with is our DIN connector here. So we are going to be removing the old one and installing our new DIN 8. So in order to facilitate removing it from the board, we're going to hit this area with some flux. We're going to reflow it, and then we will remove all the solder. Let's go ahead and reflow it right now. Okay, so we are all reflowed and we're ready to get it ready for our new connector. All right, I'll actually zoom in just a little bit there, so maybe see just a little bit better. I'm not pressing down super hard, just enough. Really don't want to mess those pads up. Okay, now that seemed like those all, oh yeah, connector fell right out. There we go. So there's our old one, and this is the new one that we will be installing. Okay, so here's our old DIN 5. Here's our new DIN 8. And we are going to need to do some modifications to be able to get this to work with our main board. Basically, there are too many pins on this to fit through the holes that are there. And these ground pins are different. So if you look here, you can see that on the new DIN 8, it's a much wider ground pin than over here on our old DIN 5. But the actual, circuit board needs this smaller footprint. So we are going to have to steal this and replace this with it. And then we are going to have to clip off these back prongs here in order to get this to fit back in our board. Now, I've never done this before, so I'm just going to kind of try to figure it out. I did watch Voltar's video on how to do this, and that is really, really helpful. So I suggest doing that or watching that as well if you're doing one of these. But yeah, I'm figuring this out as I go. So yeah, let's go ahead and do that step now. So I'm going to set my DIN 8 aside first, and going to use my pliers here to pull on this little tab right here. Oh yeah, this looks like it might be kind of tricky to get off there, so I'm going to try to get under there instead with these. So that provides just a little more leverage to be able to move that clip. And that looks like that is off there, so that's good. And then we're going to do the same thing over here on this side. All right, there we go. So now we're just going to push that. All right, so this plate is now ready to come off. So there's our base plate. And this is the ground plane that we need. Right there. I'm set that aside. And I don't think we need anything else from the old DIN 5. So just going to set that aside. So I'm going to repeat that process here on the DIN 8. Going to, again, try not to break anything. I'm going to move those clips. There we go. Okay, so careful when you are pulling those, because everything wants to move on you. So these are the pins we need to replace. So we're going to grab those and pull them out. And replace them with those pins there. Now the other thing that we have to do on this is clip these back legs. But we want to make sure that we have some structural integrity there for them, because we're going to be welding to them. This is interesting just to try to figure out how to get it all put back together here. Yeah, and those pins will kind of want to move around on you. There we go. All right, so you can see that this will go back together. Kind of tricky to get them all to fit, but we do need to remove the bottom part of these pins here. And the trick is figuring out, exactly how much to remove to still have it accommodate. So you know what I think I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just click this back in. And then I'm going to mark these rear pins and then cut just on the other side of them. And that should help me remove the correct amount. So I'm going to just mark that there. And that's going to let me know just exactly how much pin is on the other side of that. All right. So now I'm going to go ahead and pull that plate again. And doing my best to be careful with that. All right, there we go. And now I can see that I've got my pins marked, so I'm going to be cutting just above those with my XL lights. All right, there's one. There's two. And there's three. Gonna go ahead and get this put back together and see if I left enough room there. Oh, looks like I needed to trim some more. So oh, I see what I did. I clipped on the bottom side of these, and I needed to clip more on this side. All right, that's cool. I'm learning. Not crazy about the number of times I'm having to take this thing on and off, but that's okay. I'm getting better at it each time. So really with these, there's a spot where the metal starts to angle this way, and that's really where you want to clip them. It's like there's just a little bit too much on this one here. Yeah, those are still a little too close. They're still protruding just a little bit. So, third time's a charm, right? Removing just a little bit more from each one. Trying to. Side snips here are a little dull. There we go. Son of a gun. These two are fine. This last one here, though, is still poking through. So close. That's all right. We'll get it on this one. Something, something, measure twice, cut once. In my case, cut 400 times until it's right. All right, there we go. That one did it. So you can see that none of those rear pins are coming out the other side of the plastic, so that won't interfere with the board at all. And we will be able to weld to these without them moving around on us. So that is how we want to modify our DIN 8 connector. Okay, it's now time to weld our DIN connector back into place. So we're going to set that on the board right there. And we can see that that fits through there just fine. So I think the trick with this is going to be holding that in place while tacking it in. So what I'm going to do first is just kind of try to tack a couple of these down like that. All right, there we go. Now that's enough to hold it in place. And now we can go ahead and weld it back in. The flux. Sorry about that. Just need to get my fume extractor a little closer there. Okay, so our DIN 8 connector is now thoroughly installed. We can hook to that while we install our RGB mod. So let's go ahead and get started on that now. Okay, we are now ready to actually get into the real stuff here. So this is where we get to do all the fun stuff, welding to pins and all that. Now, it's pretty cool the way Voltar designed this this board. He designed it to sit right here on the drive controller, which is great. And as you can see here, we have our inputs down here, and we have our outputs up here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put down just a little piece of double-sided tape to stick this right to that chip. And then we are going to, you know, tap our pins and hook them up. Conveniently, ground is right here on pin 60, and 5 volt is right here on pin 61. So we're going to use those to hook up our power and ground. And then our RGB lines are down here on the 6260 chip. So we're going to be doing a short run from there to there, and then from here up to our 8-pin DIN RGB out. So yeah, it shouldn't be too bad. But yeah, first thing I'm going to do is just cut myself a little strip of double-sided tape to get that secured in place. All right, so this Gorilla Tape is pretty strong stuff, so I don't like to use a ton of it. I just use a little bit, and it's really just enough to kind of get things to stick where they belong. So I like to lay my piece of tape down, and then remove the cover, and then we're just going to set our board right down on top. There we go. And now we won't have any problems with this thing moving around on us when we try to when we hook everything up to it. So yeah, next thing we are going to do is we're going to prepare our pins to hook up power and ground. Tilt it this way just a little bit so it's easier for me to get at. Zoom in a bit here. All right, there we go. So ground is right here on pin 60. Very convenient. It is marked for us, and then 61 is going to be our 5-volt. All right, let's hit them with a little bit of flux. And we are going to get those pins ready. Yeah, I don't really know why my my welds are wanting to pull on me tonight. I don't like those big blobs that are wanting to come off there, so we're going to reflow those. That side looks better. And yeah, that one's not too bad. So let's go ahead and hook those up right now. And I'll just need a short run for those. All right, some white for ground and some red for power. So we'll go ahead and do our ground line first. I'm going to go ahead and strip and tin those wires, do that off camera. I'll be right back. Okay, I've got those stripped and tinned. Let's go ahead and prepare the pads for our ground 5-volt. So there's ground, there's 5-volt. And go ahead and get those pads ready. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just kind of hook my ground up right here and have it jump right over to that pad. And I'll do the same thing for 5-volt. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that right now real quick. So flux. All right, and that is a good strong weld right there. You know what? I'm actually not 100% happy with that, so I'm gonna just give a little more flux. I'm gonna pre-tin my iron just a little bit. I'm gonna hold that back in place and just give it one more quick pass. And I do like that better. I don't know, it still doesn't quite look the way I want. So yep, that is more what I was looking for right there. Just wanted a little bit better connection to that pin. So then what I'm going to do is basically bend this over to get my length for that pad. And then I'm going to clip my wire right there. And then I'm going to get in here and strip that wire. Although it's a little tight getting in there. Should be able to get in there with my pliers here. Okay, I'm just going to have to carefully use my side snips there. I'm going to pre-tin that. There we go. All right, there we go. There's our ground connection. Nice and solid. And yeah, we're going to do the same thing for power. And I'm just going to repeat that process for our power line. All right, and that was actually an excellent weld. All right, and there's our power line. All right, there we go. Got our conductor exposed. We're going to go ahead and pre-tin that. All right, so a little more flux on the board. Pre-tin my iron. Put that right where I want it and weld it in place. Just like that. Okay, so there is our power and ground. Nice solid connections. And yeah, pretty happy with that. That looks pretty darn good there. I am going to hit that area with a little bit of alcohol real quick, just because I want to. All right, there we go. 5-volt and ground hooked up. So next, we can go ahead and tin the rest of our pads and get ready to hook up the rest of our RGB lines. Okay, let's go ahead and tin our RGB and C-Sync inputs. All right, I don't like one of those. Let's go ahead. And there's our outputs. All right, so that is pretty much everything prepped up here that we need. I'm going to go ahead and zoom out because the next area that we're going to be looking at is right down here at our 6260. And we're going to be dealing with the top part of that chip. And, I think what I'll do is I'll pull up an image of what it is we have to work with there so we can take a look at it together. All right, so we're looking at the Console 5 Tech Wiki. And as you can see, up here on the top of the thing is where we have our sync line, our green line, our red line, and our blue line. Now, what's kind of interesting here, now, this one I'm looking at is on the Console 5 Wiki. Tim Worthington also has a good, and I think actually a little bit clearer description of what you need to do for this, right? So our sync line is right here on pin 44. Our green is on 47, etc. Now, what's interesting is he also has the analog power and analog ground listed. So if you wanted, you wouldn't have to tap power and ground where I did on the board. You could actually grab them here, but it would be a little bit finer pitch soldering, a little bit more difficult to do. So I'm just gonna, stick with the way I've got it. But you can see that you actually have your analog ground right here on pin 48 and your 5-volt right there on pin 50, but we did already tap those. But either way, this is the reference for which pins you need to get ready on the 6260 chip. All right, so I actually have my board rotated just so it's a little easier for me to get to these pins since I'm right-handed. This cap kind of in the way. I'm going to just sort of bend it over a little bit so I can get to these pins a little bit easier. First thing I'm going to do is get in there and reflow those a little bit to make them easier to weld to. Just putting a little bit of solder on the tip of my iron there, and I'm just reflowing those pins. Just trying to make those a little bit easier to weld to. And some of those actually looked like they wanted to come up a little bit, so I am going to spend a little more time reflowing that area. Yeah, I'm thinking it's about time for me to get a new tip. I don't know why this one is getting a little sloppy for me, for whatever reason. There we go. All those welds are looking good, and if I'm worried about it, I can go in and continuity test too. But I think that's all good. So next thing I'm going to do is pull some of my ribbon cable, and we will get those pins ready. Okay, so we're going to try this again with 30 gauge conductors. Should be much easier for me to line up exactly with the right pin. So yeah, we're going to try that now. Pre-tin my iron a little bit. And line up my conductor. Jeez. Yeah, this is a tricky one. But yeah, this 30 gauge wire is actually like the actual same width of the pins themselves. Although I still seem to have managed to bridge something. So we're going to try this again. All right, that seems to have taken care of the bridge. Okay, so that is a solid weld for sure. To pin 51 for our blue line. Oh, son of a gun. Nope, there is still definitely a bridge there. Tricky, tricky. I don't know if it's just my iron that is giving me problems today or what, but I just seem to be having trouble getting solder to go where it's supposed to. Usually not that big of a problem for me, but today running into some issues. That's all right. You know, it's going to go that way sometimes when you're working on stuff. It's just important to stay calm and keep working at things methodically. You'll get there. Okay, that one looked okay. Yeah, I'm here to tell you this this particular part of this is not for the faint of heart. This is definitely one of the trickier ones I've had to do. I actually think it would be easier to lift those pins up out of circuit here on the chip to get at them. Because yeah, you're just down there in between all those other pins, and it is tricky to get in there. Now, that looks good to me. You can see that we are welded to pin 51. I think I'm actually going to get out the old multimeter, and we're going to check for continuity, make sure there are no bridges. All right, so we're going to hit pin 52 and 51. Nothing. All right. Yeah, I think we're all set. Careful, because pins 49, or I'm sorry, pins 50 and 52 appear to be sharing the same signal. Let me double check here. Either way, yeah, my blue line is not touching the pins on either side, which is what we want. So we're just going to let that line chill out. Going to strip my next wire and tin it. All right, and our red line here is going to be, let's double check. Red line is 49. Okay. That one was not as painful. Hit it again just for good measure. All right, so that is our red line. Again, going to do a quick continuity check. All right, we are good. So next up is going to be our green, and that is on 47. I'll tell you what, hats off to Voltar for doing this video, making it look easy. This is actually really difficult. And, you know, this is the first thing in a long time that's given me any kind of significant trouble. You know, I've been at this for a little bit now, and mostly been successful, and have been having a lot of fun doing it, you know, learning a lot, and you get better, you know, you get better as you go. And I'm here to tell you, this one is tricky. All right, up next is our green line here. I don't like that. Seems like we got off center there. Try this again. Seems like my actual wire's bent a little bit, so I'm going to straighten that back out. And then again, sorry if my fingers are a little too much in the way. It is just really, really difficult to get that on camera while actually getting in there to do the welds. That's what we're looking like. You can see we're welding on there pretty good. Oh man, I'm not crazy about that red line. Gonna see about hitting that one again. Try to do it without pulling the damn thing off there. Or bridging anything. Yeah, that's welding on there good. That's not going anywhere. Oh, hell, that one looks like it about rolled over and in between two pins. Tricky, tricky. I don't think it actually is, but I don't want to mess with it either. All right, I think that looks better. Honestly, I'm having to like use my camera here to really see what the heck it is I'm doing. All right, that looks pretty solid. Nope, 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 nope. Darn thing moved on me. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just finish doing these off camera because it's taken me a good bit. You can see the technique I'm using. Yeah, a little discouraging how difficult this part actually is. But I'm just going to hang in there. I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to get it done. So I'm going to do that and be right back. Okay, there we are. It was tricky. That one was definitely tricky. One of the harder ones I've had to do for a little bit. So that was good. It was good to have a challenge. It's a couple of things I learned. One, you know, your 30 gauge wire like this, definitely easier to maneuver in a tight space like that. The other thing is give yourself a little bit of a length so you can line it up exactly with that bottom portion of the pin. You do want to give yourself about the same distance of lead as you get from where the leg bends and connects out to the pad here. And that just gives you a lot more to weld to. The other thing I would say is just check your continuity on these. At least that is what I decided to do because it just seemed way too easy to get into one of the other pins next to it. And honestly, like I would equate like the difficulty of this one would be similar to when you do like a Model 1 Sega Genesis triple bypass, where you have to like lift the pins on the ASIC and weld to them. That's tricky. This is actually harder than that. I think if you were to lift them on the chip, it would actually be easier to weld to them. You could probably use a little bit bigger wire. But either way, this ended up working out pretty good. So the next thing I'm going to do is zoom out a little bit here, and we're going to go ahead and cut our wires and weld them up to our chip here. So let's go ahead and move our sync, our red, and our green, and we'll go ahead and do our blue first, and we're coming right to there. So we're going to go ahead and cut that right there. To expose our wire next, we're going to go ahead and strip that. Go ahead and tin our wire. Yep. Yeah, man, I'm getting these just weird pulls today, so we're going to go ahead and hit that with some more flux. Hold our conductor in place and reflow until we get something nice and pretty like that. All right, there we go. Next up is going to be our red line. And so with these, since we are welded to the chip, we definitely want to make sure that we are holding down our wire and making sure not to put any pressure on those welds down there on the chip. Go a little more flux. Yeah, I think I'm about due for a tip change on this. This one is just giving me all kinds of weird results. All right, there's blue, there's red. Let's go ahead and do green here. There we go. Strip it. Okay, let's go ahead and weld our green line into place. Well, that was a much nicer pull. or weld, I should say. It went right on there the way it's supposed to. All right, I'm gonna trim up our sync line. All right, last one of our inputs here. One more flux on the board. All right, there we go. All right, so there are all of our input lines. Now, one of the things I'm going to do is make sure that I got plenty of room here to get my capacitor put back in. All right, there is our RGB run. Tricky. This one was kind of tricky, but I have kind of enjoyed it. Like, this has been fun learning how to do this and getting a new perspective on what it takes to do an RGB mod for one of these. Pretty cool. All right, moving on to our outputs. Okay, so as you can see, we are all hooked up. Finally got everything routed in and got our capacitor reinstalled there. So our RGB and C-Sync signals are all hooked up and ready to go. Now for the next one up here, we're going to be welding to much larger pins. So I'll just be using ribbon cable for that. We're going to run it from here right on up to here. Now, one thing that I didn't think about initially was how we're going to hook up our C-Sync line. And that actually goes to this pin here. And we actually need it out of circuit, so I'm going to clip this and lift it, so we'll just be kind of welding to the top part of this here. Hoping that won't flop around on me too much. I don't think that it will, but my plan is to cut this, pull it up and out, and then we'll have a good place to weld to. So I'm going to go ahead and do that first. So yeah, it seems like the easiest way to get in there is going to be right here. So you can see I've made a cut, and now I am attempting to lift that, to get that to sort of come out for me there. Well, it's definitely cut, but it is a little tricky to get it lifted the way that I want. There we go. And honestly, it's a pretty heavy-duty pin. All right, and there you can see I have that pin clipped and lifted. And I already have my pads tinned and ready to go there. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing up here on my din real quick. There we go. Okay, so our legs to our pins are all ready to go. So we got C-Sync, red, green, and blue. Okay, so we have our ribbon cable ready. We're going to go ahead and put a little flux on our board and go ahead and get, get our ribbon cable tacked down. All right, there we go. We've got our C-Sync hooked up. All right. So that's going to be our run right over to here. And I'm going to go ahead and chop these right about here. That was an ugly cut. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get these split in 10 and be right back. Okay, so our ribbon wires are all cut and tinned and ready to hook up. So let's go ahead and do that now. Let's start over here with our C-Sync line. C-Sync. And then we just sort of move over in order and do each one. All right, I'm gonna have to pre-tin my iron. That one's on there, but it's not on there real good. So let's go ahead and try that again. There we go. Same thing, gonna pre-tin my iron. All right, not bad. I'm going to go ahead and hit each of those again with a little bit of flux. And reflow them just so I get a nice pretty weld on each. Very nice. All right, we are all hooked up. All right, so there is our Duo RGB mod. Time to test it out. Just wanted to show you what this is starting to look like as you put it back together. This really is a really nice looking mod. Just a really good looking piece of kit in there. All right, let's get it put back together. Okay, it is time for the moment of truth. Let's see what happens when we turn on our freshly modded Turbo Duo here, or PC-Engine Duo-R, I should say. There we go. We have crispy RGB output. Awesome. This game is so cool. Yeah, trying to play it through my capture device, though, I'm not going to do real great. That said, I am really happy that this works. We can definitely see that our hoot card slot works. So I'll go ahead and put the top on, and we will check the CD side. I do notice, though, that we have a dead LED here, so we'll replace that with a standard red LED, and yeah, we will get this thing working good as new. Be right back. Okay, we are going to do a quick CD side check, really quick, before we get doing anything else. So let's go ahead and pop in our Gate of Thunder CD, one of my favorites on the system. And we'll get it fired up here. Oh, you know what? We do have an LED there. So I guess that only engages when the CD side is going. Good to know. Don't have to replace that. Okay, CD side looks good. Yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at this for a second. Yes, looks really good. All right, super cool. Well, I am really happy with how that came out. So that is a fully refurbed, fully recapped, and RGB modded Duo-R. Let's go ahead and wrap up. Okay, that wraps it up for tonight. This was a big project. You know, it was a big recap for this thing. RGB mod, not for the faint of heart. It's not terribly hard, but it is pretty high skill. This one was a big challenge even for me, and I've been doing this stuff for a while. You know, word to the wise, pull that cap so you've got easy access to those RGB pins. Use fine gauge wire so you can lay them right down on there and weld them into place. And yeah, this was just a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. It's a big learning experience for me, for sure. And that's a lot of the reason I enjoy doing this stuff. You know, it's always cool to learn new stuff. You know, especially when it comes to, you know, one of your favorite hobbies. But yeah, the other thing I did was after I got this all buttoned back up for Jay, I did hit it with the old Novus cleaner, scratch remover, plastic polish. This one was pretty dinged up, had some pretty deep gouges, so did my best to, you know, mitigate that and get it looking good as new for Jay. And I think that's going to go great with his hot new hot rodded RGB signal he's going to get out of this. But yeah, if you enjoyed hanging out with me tonight, I would appreciate a like and a subscribe. You know, it's always, you know, just helps grow the channel. And, you know, I always love to hear from you in the comments, whether it's, you know, asking questions about how I went about one of these, or just talking retro gaming stuff, you know, or electronics, or tech in general. I always love to hear from you. And I did recently do a buy me a coffee and a Patreon. So if you'd like to support the channel, you can do that just to help me keep producing these videos. And yeah, just had a lot of fun hanging out with you tonight and getting to work on one of these. And we'll catch you next time when we do some more mod work. Bye now.